The Deputy Prime Minister, Winston Peters, has had a successful, albeit unexpected, surgery this morning and is now recuperating at home. The 75-year-old visited the doctor earlier this week after experiencing what's been described as food poisoning symptoms and dehydration. We cross now to our political reporter, Joe Moyer at Parliament. Hi, Joe. What do we know about this surgery? Because Winston Peters is particularly private, isn't he?
Yes, he is, Lisa. So what we know is that as those symptoms that you expressed, he went and saw the doctor. He was advised that he needed a surgical procedure. Now, this is quite convenient in the sense that we are in a 2-week recess at the moment, so the timing is quite good. However, obviously to have surgery so quickly, you would expect that it was probably reasonably serious as well. Now, what he had done this morning was a keyhole surgery, and he's now back home recuperating. Now, of course, this is not his first medical event either. Last year, you'll recall that Mr. Peters took a 4-week break after quite a serious operation. Now, at the time back then, he said, I went into hospital for a serious operation, I got an infection, and that's what set me back so far, which is why he ended up having a lot more time off than he'd expected. He was asked about that operation later when he returned to Parliament, and at the time, Mr. Peters told reporters it was a private matter.
So why do you think he's even given out any details this time, Joe?
Well, it is interesting because we've had not one but 2 statements from him this time. So this morning we got told that he was having the surgery and he was confident that he would return to work quickly. He pointed out that he wanted to be, campaign fighting fit for the election, which he said is typically physically gruelling, and that this was an unexpected medical event and, of course, unexpected timing, but he was taking doctor's orders and needed to do it. Now, the second statement came out saying that he'd survived the surgery, which I guess you could see as a bit of a proof of life statement. That statement also went on to thank everyone who had sent kind words and well wishes. Now, we have actually had a third statement just in the last half an hour from Mr. Peters. Now, this one is in his capacity as the Foreign Affairs Minister. So what I can tell you about that is that he's announced on behalf of the government that New Zealand is reviewing the settings of its relationship with Hong Kong. Now, this is a quote from Mr. Peters. He says, China's decision to pass that new national security law for Hong Kong has fundamentally changed the environment for international engagement there. New Zealand remains deeply concerned at the imposition of this legislation on Hong Kong. So government officials have been directed to review policy settings around that relationship with Hong Kong. Mr. Peters says this will be a deliberate, considered review across all settings. Now, that includes extradition arrangements, controls on exports of strategic goods and travel advice. And just on that travel advice, I can also tell you that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs advice to New Zealanders in Hong Kong has been updated today as well. And it warns Kiwis living in Hong Kong that they face increased risk of arrest.
Interesting. So he is still, commanding big decisions from his sick bed. So given that, do we think that this is going to have any effect on his campaign plans?
Yeah, I mean, it's not great timing because he was meant to be in Whangarei this weekend for the party's big campaign launch. Now, I understand that the bus from the 2017 election with Winston Peters' face plastered on the side of it is going to be back. That was going to be taking place in Whangarei, huge campaign launch. Obviously, he's not going to be well enough to do that now. They do, however, have their annual convention general meeting in Auckland, not this weekend, but next, the following weekend. So they're just going to put the two together, have the campaign launch and the AGM at the same time. And in the meantime, this weekend, it will just be a much smaller affair without Winston Peters. Shane Jones will be there and they'll launch their Northland campaign.
Thanks for the update, Joe. That's Joe Moyer joining us live from Parliament there.